We are alive.
We are live. All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having an awesome and amazing weekend so far. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm Samantha Studebaker Carl, coming at you from beautiful Southwest Georgia. And I'm here with my good friends Jason, Katherine, and Dan. Sandy and Vickie and Danielle are all well, one thing or another. Danielle's off busy doing some business things. Sandy's having internet problems, and poor Vickie, she's not feeling so very well. So let's all send Vickie some warm and healing thoughts and hope that she feels better soon, and hope that Sandy gets her internet fixed. That'll be great. She may be able to jump on. You never know. She's got her cable guy coming. So with that, I'm going to just jump over to our page here real quick, and while I'm doing that, you guys can introduce yourselves and tell us where you're hanging out from. And if you're live out there watching us on our event page, I'm going to post the mobile link just in case you're watching mobilely. And go ahead and post a comment on the page letting us know where you're hanging out from, and if this is your first time here visiting with us, or if you've been here with us for a while, we'd love to hear what your insights are, compared to what we talk about, because of course everything that we all share helps each other. So I'm going to jump over real quick, and Dan, go ahead and take it away.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dan Smith. I live in, excuse me, I don't know if that's showing up or not. I'm messing around with my computer. My name's Dan Smith. I live in Boise, Idaho, and it's an absolutely beautiful day. It's a great day to be alive. So welcome, everybody.
Yes, welcome, everybody. My name is Jason Roberts. I'm here in St. Petersburg, Florida, and it is a gorgeous day out today. This morning it looks beautiful. Probably going to get some huge showers this afternoon, but it's just gorgeous this morning. And woke up this morning, folks, with just with excitement and some enthusiasm and vigor that I haven't had in the past couple of days. So I'm anxious to get started, and good to see everybody.
Yay, that's always a great way to start the day. I'm Katherine Clement. I'm out here in Boulder, Colorado, and I've had to prop some lights up today because it's kind of chilly and gray here. So I'm just kind of bundled up. I'm relaxed, got my electric blanket on me, and just going to hang out here for a little bit. This should be a really great discussion. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Absolutely right. Goodness, it is just a wonderful day today, and I do believe that this topic is very, very important for any of us who are working to, create improvement in our life, have breakthroughs in our lives, or just have more success. And so this chapter, and actually, let me just, in case you haven't been here before, we are studying the book, The New PSYCHO Cybernetics, by Maxwell Maltz. And if you do not have a copy of this book and you would like one, then go ahead and message one of us in the mindsetmasterycollective.com. That is our Google Plus community, and you can jump over there, interact with us in the community, add your thoughts, feelings, whatever. But either way, message us if you would like a PDF version of this book. We'd be happy to send it to you. We've been studying this book now for a little over a year, and we're getting closer to the end. We're actually in chapter 14, and this chapter is called How to Get and Keep That Winning Feeling. And, one of the most powerful things about this book, in my opinion, is that it talks about how you can use the power of your brain to focus your thoughts in a way that can help you have more success in your life. And so I just want to read this first section here, because this kind of brings us back to what we've been studying all along in this book. And then I want to talk a little bit about some of the comments that everybody made in the pre-mastermind discussion, and then we can kind of jump into anybody feel free to jump in at any point, add your comments on the event page, or you guys on the panel with me, just jump in and interrupt whenever you feel like it. Okay, So this in here, it says your powerful servo mechanism is teleological. That is, it operates in terms of goals and end results. Once you give it a definite goal to achieve, you can depend on its automatic guidance system to take you to that goal much better than you ever could have by conscious thought. You supply the goal by thinking in terms of end results. Your automatic mechanism then supplies the means whereby. If your muscles need to perform some more motion to bring about the end result, your automatic mechanism will guide them much more accurately and delicately than you could by taking thought. If you need ideas, your automatic mechanism will supply them. There are even many who believe that if you need contacts, your servo mechanism can magnetically attract them. Whatever the extent of its powers, one thing is certain: it will lie sleepy, lazy, and dormant if undirected. Now this is one of the most powerful things here in this book, is just the fact that your brain is basically works like a servo mechanism, where once you tell it what you want it to do, then it automatically goes about creating that result. Now the biggest key with that is learning how to communicate with your servo mechanism in order for you to get the results you want versus the results that you don't want, which is typically what happens with a lot of people. Is they say they want this one thing, but yet as they go through their daily lives and you know, things happen and whatever's going on, is they actually are doing the opposite, the wrong kind of communication with their servo mechanism, and so they end up with a result that they don't want. They end up with failing in their career, or failing in an endeavor, or a project doesn't go the way they want it to, or you know, you don't end up making the money that you want, or you know, any number of things. And so when you can learn how to communicate effectively with that part of your brain, which is basically kind of your subconscious, then you become more successful. And so that's a lot of what this chapter talks about, because it talks about, you know, getting that winning feeling. And that winning feeling is basically an emotional state that that you feel when you have that feeling of kind of being on top of the world. And when you have that feeling, you're communicating with your servo mechanism how you this awesome feeling, and so then your automatic mechanism guides you towards things that continually give you this feeling. So does anybody want to jump in before we jump over to the pre-discussion?
Well, I think that is a great summary, Samantha, of you know, of what this chapter is about. You know, the power of the mind, you know, the power of your brain to really direct yourself. You know, but this is great. I mean, it talks about the triggers that you can use, or it talks, you know, about, you know, kind of getting in and understanding your own mind and how you individually, you know, pull up that feeling of success. I think this is great. I'm going to start using this more.
Now this chapter has been I've read this chapter over and over and over again. You know, this is my copy of PSYCHO CYBERNETICS, and I mean, I've absolutely destroyed this book. The pages are falling out, and it's one of the greatest books that I've ever read. To me, this is a bathroom book. You know, we all have to spend a little bit of time in a certain room every day, and you have a few minutes. This is a book you can open up to any chapter and spend a few minutes there reading. You know, I mean, if you only take one thought from this book, you know, for 5 minutes that you spend reading one page, you know, that one thought is so powerful. And one of the things that has always really impressed me was this chapter, along with the earlier chapter, and it talks a lot about worry, and just the fact that we all worry, we all use worry on a daily basis. You know, we worry about, am I going to have the money to pay for my house payment? Am I going to have money to pay for my light bills? Am I going to have enough money to buy food? You know, all these things, not just money worries. I mean, there's all kinds of worries. You know, I'm a father and a grandfather now, and so I got worries for my kids. You know, what are my kids going to do? Okay? You know, is my grandkids going to grow up and be okay? You know, all these things that we do on a daily basis, we use a form of worry. But the identical same thing that we use in a negative form in worry, you can use that in a positive form. And when you set goals and you use your mind to visibly see yourself in a finished state, in a state of perfection of whatever your goal is, possibly if you're a young person and you're a good swimmer, you're a gymnastics or whatever, and you want to go to the Olympics. Well, you actually see in your mind yourself in that state of perfection. You see yourself on the platform winning your gold medal. You hear the national anthem of your country being played, and you feel the emotions, the raw emotions that would come out if you was actually there living that dream, living that life. And that's the identical same part of your brain, or the same part of your mind that you use to worry. You're just using it in a positive connotation in order to bring about a good goal versus the worry and the bad goal. And you feel the same emotions, and those emotions are the fuel that drives you forward to go out and to live your dream, to do the things, to bring it about. It is your subconscious mind that actually drives you forward. Is the engine that drives you. So anyways, I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Yeah, I love how you talk about that, Deanna. Actually, there's a section, and I apologize to everybody for being snotty today, but I'm fighting a cold. But yeah, I appreciate you bringing that part up about, you know, the difference between thinking the positive and thinking about the worrying, because that is one of the keys right there. Is because one of the most powerful methods that you communicate with your servo mechanism is through emotions and that visualization. And of course, when you combine the two, it's very, very powerful. And so a lot of times what happens is people are worrying, and every time that they worry, they're thinking the worst case scenario. They're thinking of, you know, they're actually visualizing what might happen if it didn't go the way that they want it to go. And so they say they want it to have this result, but yet all through their days, all they do is think about what is the worst that can happen and all these bad scenarios, and they're like running them through their minds. And when you do that, it's basically like you're saying that's what you want, you know. And a lot of times, excuse me, sorry guys, you know, we talk a lot in the, you know, the personal development industry. We talk a lot about like the law of attraction, and what you focus on is what you get, and you know, and all those different things. And this is why it works that way, because that's how you communicate with your inner self, is by visualizing and feeling the feelings you would feel when the thing has been accomplished. And when you worry, you're doing the exact opposite of what you want. And actually, you know, since we're on it, I kind of want to go ahead and just jump right over to that section and read what it says about that. Let me see if I can find it here real quick, because the way that he describes it in here. Okay, here it is. Okay, so it says positive and constructive worry. Okay. Mentally begin to play with the idea of complete and inevitable success. Don't force yourself. Don't attempt to coerce your mind. Don't try and use effort or willpower to bring about the desired conviction. Just do what you do when you worry. Only worry about a positive goal and a desirable outcome rather than about a negative goal and an undesirable outcome. Don't begin by trying to force yourself to have absolute faith in the desired success. This is too big a bite for you to mentally digest at first. Use gradualness. Begin to think about the desired end result as you do when you worry about the future. When you worry, you do not attempt to convince yourself that the outcome will be undesirable. Instead, you begin gradually. You usually begin with suppose. Just suppose and such a thing happens. You mentally say to yourself, You repeat this idea over and over to yourself. You play with it. Next comes the idea of possibility. Well, after all, you say, such a thing is possible. It could happen. Next comes mental imagery. You begin to picture yourself all the various negative possibilities. You play these imaginative pictures over and over to yourself, adding small details and refinements. As the pictures become more and more real to you, appropriate feelings begin to manifest themselves just as if the imagined outcome had already happened. And this is the way that fear and anxiety developed. Okay, so then the next section says how to cultivate fear or faith and courage. Faith and courage are developed in exactly the same way, only your goals are different. If you are going to spend time in worry, why not worry constructively? Begin by outlining and defining to yourself the most desirable possible outcome. Begin with your suppose. Suppose the best possible outcome actually did come about. Next, remind yourself that after all, this could happen. Not that it will happen at this stage, but only that it could. Remind yourself that after all, such a good and desirable outcome is possible. You can mentally accept and digest these gradual doses of optimism and faith. After having the thought of desired end result as a definite possibility, begin to imagine what the desirable outcome would be like. Go over these mental pictures and delineate details and refinements, and then play them over and over to yourself as your mental images become more detailed. As they are repeated over and over and over again, you will find that more appropriate feelings are beginning to manifest themselves just as if favorable outcome had already happened. This time, the appropriate feelings will be those of faith, self-confidence, and courage, or all of them wrapped up into one package, that winning feeling. So guys, this is one of the most important things in this chapter, I think, because when we realize that we're already doing this, it becomes so much easier to translate it into what we should be doing. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah, earlier in the book, there's a section where there's a quote by a man named Emil, who's a French psychologist. And what he said in there was, when the will and the imagination are in conflict, imagination invariably wins the day. And basically what that boils down to is that you have a goal. Let's say that you want to go on a diet, you want to lose a few pounds. And so you through your willpower, you say to yourself, I'm not going to eat cookies, I'm not going to eat donuts, I'm not going to eat fudge, I'm not going to eat all this stuff that's bad for me, because mentally I know that it's bad for me, so I'm not going to eat it so that I can lose X number of pounds, and I've got this strong willpower, and that's the way it's going to be. And you know, a day or two goes by, and maybe you go over to the neighbors, and the neighbors got a fresh pot of coffee on, and they just bought a dozen donuts, and there just happens to be bear claws in there, and bear claws are your absolute favorite donut that you've ever had in the entire world. And you have this iron-jawed self-discipline, that this willpower that says, I'm not going to eat that. But then you smell that coffee, and hey, man, you know what? I love bear claws. You know, I mean, I could have one. I could just have one, you know. And so what happens to that iron-jawed willpower? It flies out the window, and before you know it, you've eaten a bear claw and half of the, you know, of an eclair or whatever. And so as that quote was, when imagination and willpower are in conflict, imagination invariably wins the day. So the imagination of how good that bear claw would taste, how good that coffee and that bear claw are. I mean, use your own favorites, whatever. But the imagination actually kicks in and kicks your rear end, and you know, you go like a lamb to the slaughter, and you drink the coffee and you eat the bear claw. And so what Maxwell Maltz is teaching in this book, what Napoleon Hill writes about. I mean, dozens of books, hundreds of books, and they're all really basically coming down to the same thing. It's how you use your imagination in a positive manner in order to, eventually it's a combination of both willpower and imagination, but it starts out in learning how to control your imagination in order to use worry in a positive light. And I'm searching for words here in my mind how to describe it, but you have emotions, and you have the ability to choose to use positive emotions or to choose to use negative emotions, and what you imagine in your mind, as he's talking about in the section that you just read, use gradualness. In the business realm, you can't. It's hard to go straight from being a broke person to saying, well, I'm going to make $500,000 a month, because you're subconsciously, you can't accept that yet. You haven't grown into it yet. So what do? You begin to use gradualness. Well, I could make $10,000 a month, and you begin to imagine yourself actually. What would your life be like if you was earning $10,000 a month? And then you scale it up to 20,000, then 30,000, then 50,000, then 100,000, and over time, through the positive use of your imagination, through making these goal pictures of yourself living the life that you want to live, being the kind of person. What kind of person would you have to become in order to make $500,000 a month? Not everybody can do that, but you have to become a certain kind of person. So what would the person be? And so it's like you go to get a job, and they say, well, we can't hire you because you don't have any experience. Okay, well, give me the job and I'll have some experience. And it's the same thing. It's what we're doing in our own minds. You're actually taking your minds, taking your thoughts, taking control of your thoughts, and using them in a positive manner to positively worry, if you want to call it that, to create emotions that will actually draw you to the accomplishment of your goal. So anyway, I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Well, we heard it in a movie. If you build it, they will come. And I think that's pretty much how it goes with ourselves. We can't, people, especially in this internet marketing niche, people get in and they think, oh, well, money's going to solve all of my problems. So I'm going to set my goal on 10,000 a month or whatever. Most people actually, come with, well, I'll just speak for myself here. I was raised with a very lack mindset, and so there's no way that even 10,000 a month resonates with me. I had to start at like, oh, I can make $200 a month, and then once I did that, then you can move on, but sometimes you have to start with $10, instead of 10,000. But the point is to start with something that you can actually believe in and resonate, because if you're just if you're saying 10,000 and you've never even made 10,000 in your life or something, there's no way that you can, you know that you're lying to yourself. We can get on video and hang out and, try to lie to people. Usually people can see through it, but, we can try to present ourselves as this, that, or the other, but we know we can't lie to ourselves, so it's not going to work if you're trying to jump way ahead. And you have to remember that, yes, money does solve a lot of problems. It really does. It can make things incredibly difficult or incredibly easier. However, just because you have more money doesn't mean that you have less problems. They're just a little bit easier to solve. So I think people get into this false fantasy land of, oh, well, if I do this, I'm not going to have any more problems. No, you're going to have problems all your life. Just get used to it. You're just going to, things are going to come up. You're going to have problems, but it's how you deal with those problems and how you take control of your mind and use it to serve yourself instead of cutting your legs off at the knees, so to speak, because we can get into that really, really easy. And some days you're trying to make progress and you just don't seem to be getting any traction. And I have literally taken it down to something as simple as going to the grocery store. Like everything I was doing that day was going bad. And I'm like, okay, I know I can drive to the grocery store and purchase some items successfully today. So you have to take even sometimes little teeny tiny steps to get back on just, instead of making a goal for the day of, I don't know, make it 3 steps that you know that you can accomplish, because every time you get a sense of accomplishment, it opens you up to being able to do more. If you keep tackling goals that are too lofty and that you're going to fail at, then it makes you want to shrink back and not go forward. So choose your goals wisely. Maybe take your goal and break it down into a few more steps so that you can get there and actually build your confidence, instead of going to bed at night feeling like, oh, I didn't get my stuff done, because it really makes a huge difference. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And it has this whole section in here. This is chapter 14 in the section that says build success patterns into your gray matter. So it talks about, having these little small successes, setting yourself up for simple successes so that you can develop that feeling of confidence, that winning feeling that you've accomplished something. And when you do that, you actually increase your feelings of success each time that you accomplish a goal that is just slightly more and more and more. And it says in here, by arranging things so that we can succeed in little things, we can build an atmosphere of success that will carry over into larger undertakings. So that's exactly right. And I think that's something that, a lot of times people think, okay, small successes aren't really all that important, or that it just doesn't count unless it's something big. But the truth is that everybody starts at the beginning. And if you try and go from the beginning to $10,000 a month or $1 million in a year, that is going to be, it's going to seem so unbelievable to you that every time you do anything and you don't get that, you actually set yourself up for feelings of failure. And when you set yourself up for feelings of failure, you're actually programming your own brain to feel more failure, in which that's what you're communicating to your servo mechanism, is those feelings of failure. And so your servo mechanism brings up more ways for you to fail. Whereas the other way around is, if you can set yourself up for small successes and do those consistently, is that each time you have a little success, you get that feeling of success, you get that feeling of confidence, you get the feeling, that winning feeling that pushes you forward to take the next step, and also communicates with your servo mechanism that you are working towards success, that you are being successful, and so therefore it brings up possibilities for success. So absolutely, this is such a powerful chapter, and I know that, if you've really read through this book, if you've been following along for any time, you notice that each chapter kind of builds on the original topic of communicating with your servo mechanism in such a way that you can create more success in your life. And the thing is that each chapter spells it out in a different way so that more people have the ability to understand it or have a breakthrough, so that, maybe if you didn't quite get it in the last chapter, this chapter has got something that may resonate with you. And for me, it was this whole worrying thing. And, and it's funny because we've talked about this a lot of different times, but it didn't spell out how to do it. It just said, instead of worrying, do positive thinking, right? Or positive visualization. But just having that extra help of, this is how you do it. You're already saying, suppose that I don't have enough money to pay my bills this month, suppose that happens, then what will I do? And so then you start planning out the details of what will you do if you can't pay the bills. Whereas the other way around is, what if I don't have to worry about the bills? What if I could set up all my bills on automatic payment coming out on my bank account? I never have to worry about it. Even if I balance my account, it's always in the positive. What if I did that? You know, if you start saying things like that to yourself and visualizing that as a possibility, you don't even have to believe it to begin with, because you are just using your creative imagination going, what if? Suppose this happened. And if that, you know, that is something that helps you overcome that believability side of it. Because when you're worrying, let's say you're worrying that you're going to get cancer. You've never gotten cancer before, right? You've never been so ill that you've had to be in the hospital for, you know, months and months and months going through chemotherapy, but yet you'll sit there and you'll visualize that as a possibility. What if I get cancer? Well, then I will be in the hospital. Then I'd have to have all this chemotherapy. Oh my God, my hair will fall out. It'll be horrible. Then I'll have to find these hats to cover it up. You know, you can do exactly the opposite, and it works exactly the same thing, you know, and it's not that you believe for sure that one or the other of those things is going to happen, but that's what you start to communicate with your servo mechanism. Those are the emotions that you start to develop and get stronger and stronger and stronger, and then as you do that, more things happen in your life. You know, like Dan was talking about with the whole donut thing, and how, you know, if you sit there and you tell yourself you're not going to eat things that are bad for you, I mean, you're literally sitting there visualizing all these bad things that you shouldn't eat, and so that creates this desire to eat them, you know, whereas if instead you're sitting here going, what if I was 40 pounds lighter? What would it feel like? How cool would it be if I could go and buy a new bathing suit and I would look awesome in it? You know, what would it feel like if I had, you know, if I was able to run 5 miles? That would be crazy, wouldn't it? You know, I mean, start thinking in terms of those kinds of things, you know, and if you just start thinking those thoughts, instead of the unpleasant ones, it won't matter what goes on in your daily life. You won't have to think about not eating that donut. You will naturally be driven by your servo mechanism to do the things that equal these feelings of success that you are thinking about, you're imagining. So that's my thoughts. That's what I've been rambling for a while today. Funny how cold can make you ramble. I don't know. I'm not even on any cold medicine.
You know, I love that line in there, though, where he talks about begin with your suppose. Begin with your suppose. You know, I may use hyperbole. You know, I'm throwing out these large number figures, and I'm just using that as an example. You know, the fact is that the average American, if they only could make another $500 a month, their life would be so much greater. And that's the way that the average person thinks. Just $500 more, that would take some of the pressure off of my life. I mean, how many single mothers are there out there, or single fathers that are trying to take care of 1, 2, 3 kids, that just $500 more a month in their bank account would be so huge. And so when this line, begin with your suppose, you know, instead of supposing that all these awful things could happen, suppose that, what if something good happened? What if I could just put another $500 a month into my bank account? Wow, wouldn't that be great? What could I do? What kind of food could I buy just for $500 a month? And that's where you begin with your suppose. Suppose that it's actually possible that you could do that. And if you're an employee and you're locked into a wage, maybe whatever, $8 an hour, $12 an hour, $15 an hour, you know, that's what the average American makes. When you really get down to it, that's the kind of money that the average American makes at their wage. You know, you might live in a different part of the country. You might live in Los Angeles, where the wage might be higher there, but when you really factor in the cost of living, it's not any different from where I live in Boise, Idaho, or some other part of the nation. because you're factoring in inflation and all these different things and what it actually costs to live in your area of the country. But suppose, just suppose, that you could actually put another $500 a month over and above what you now earn. And that's where you can sit back in a chair, relax your muscles, relax your jaw, relax your attitudes, close your eyes, and just begin with that suppose. Suppose that I could actually put another $500 in my bank account. I could buy shoes for my son. I could buy that dress for my daughter. We could buy a steak once in a while instead of living on hamburgers, you know? And that's where you begin to put those feelings into those emotions into your body. That's the suppose. Suppose that the best actual thing that I can even imagine could actually happen in my life. What would my life be like? And that is just using that form of worry and turning it from a negative, turning it over into a positive. And what that does in your body is that those emotions that you feel and the pleasant feelings, you know, sometime in your life in the past you've wanted something. Every one of us has. There's something that we know how to do that nobody else knows how to do that we're good at. And when you do that, you feel good on the inside. Well, you can take that emotion, and it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe when you was in junior high, you ran faster than anybody else could run in one particular race and you won. Well, you can take that feeling, that emotion that you actually felt clear back in junior high, and now you can transfer that emotion over to this portion of your life and feel those same feelings as you visualize yourself making that extra $500 a month. And actually, what that does in your mind, what that does in your body is it brings emotions over. It's a transfer of feeling. It's that winning feeling that this entire chapter is talking about, the winning feeling, that one time that you won in your life, or that one thing that you do better than anybody else. And it talks about that success breeds success. Success is built upon success. You have these little wins, just like Katherine was talking about. The little wins. Maybe you sold a product and you made $30 on that one product. And wow, I did it. I was afraid to do it. I was scared, but I didn't let my fear stand in my way, and I moved forward and I did it and I won. And now you take that same feeling, that same emotion, and you bring it over into your next suppose. Wow, I made $35 on that sale. What if I can make 2 sales? I could make $70. And you begin to see the progress that you can make. You can begin to see how life could be better. I can move forward. I'm not a loser. I'm not here in the dust. I can actually rise above my circumstances. I can do better. I can be better. I can be more. And little wins, and beginning with your suppose, and the visualization, and you bring in the emotion, and you build on your successes, and you build on your successes, and you build on your successes, and you move forward in life. And that's how you move forward. I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Well, I'll hop on here real quick. Yeah, that was great, Dan. Some great examples. You know, they start out this chapter. You know, it's the subchapter is titled "Think in Terms of Possibilities," and you know, in terms of present possibilities, it even goes into, and that's important. I think, just like you're saying, bringing something. Bringing a really great experience of being victorious or achieving your desired goal, bringing that forward to the present, and then attaching that to your next goal. I've used that a couple times. I don't use it as often as I should, because sometimes I feel like I have to go through the activity again, and then down the road I start I'm wondering, well, where is that winning feeling? And it's like, well, you kind of have to go back through the mental exercises. But yeah, this is some great examples. And I just wanted to, there was, they have in here, let's see, I think it's page 277 in the PDF. They're talking about two ways of thinking, and they give the examples of these two employees that were tasked to do something similar, and they both had the same task at hand, but their ways of thinking were definitely different. And let me see if I could find it really quick. Basically, well, here, I'll just read it from the top. It's short. I once had the occasion to observe two men I knew quite well. They had remarkably similar backgrounds, education, intelligence, and skills. Both attempted to master a brand new endeavor at the same time, and each was totally unknown to the other, but both were observed by him. The details of the task been undertaken are unimportant, but suffice it to say it represented considerable difficulty and offered up considerable frustration and required considerable patience. It goes on to say that one of the men said to him, and this really goes into his state of mind, he says to him that, I'll never get this. Max, all my life everything's been difficult for me. I've had to do everything the hard way. I can't recall ever getting a break. I just don't have it in me to fight the way, fight my way through this also. And now the other person took a much better approach, and you can still understand his, where he's coming from, but it's just a much more positive outlook. And he says, the other fellow said to me, Max, I'll tell you something. All my life, everything's been difficult for me. Every single thing that I now do well, every single thing that I can now do effortlessly, and every success I've had, I started out doing it badly and struggled mightily to get from bad to good. And if there's one thing I know exactly how to do, then it is to go from being a bumbling incompetent to being capable. And it looks like I'm going to do that again with this. And it's interesting because there's in the first person there's so much defeatism. I guess if that's a word, but the person's already looking at it in the wrong way. And the second person is obviously building on his previous successes, just like Dan had mentioned. So, I wanted to bring that up. Yeah, some great stuff in here, really. Thanks.
That is a powerful section there, Jason. And I just want to read this other section here where it talks about this is more than an old cliche about positive thinking, glass half full versus glass half empty. That's superficial and tends to be consciously forced. But this is deeper, foundational, right here, or right there in the self-image, how these two men have interpreted their lives, how they feel about themselves. One will see the slightest improvement as encouraging proof that he is gaining progress as usual, from an ineptness to confidence, while the other will see the exact same slight improvement as proof that he is mirrored in struggle so great and challenging, so unyielding, he is not up to the task. Any two people can look at any situation and interpret it quite differently, and and that's key right there. All of us have experienced, been around folks that you can see one person with a positive attitude, another person with a negative attitude, and and when it talks about the self-image, that's the other part of the communicating with your servo mechanism. Throughout this book, it talks about establishing a positive self-image, and that image of who you are is what ultimately guides you. So, and we've all kind of heard that, is that who you think you are is who you will become. And if you think of yourself as unsuccessful, if you think of yourself as shy, if you think of yourself as, you know, somebody who gets nervous in a group of people, then that's who you are and who you will act out in the world, you know. And at the end of this chapter, it talks about how, let me just get over to this section here. It talks about how, let's see, this one guy, okay, so there's this other story in here where Maxwell Maltz, he goes to a funeral, and it's the brother of this one gentleman has just died. Well, these two brothers had been in a horrible feud with each other for years and years and years. They never got along. They never had anything good to say about each other. It was just bad, bad, bad across the board. But yet, when one of the brothers died, the other brother stood up and talked so many awesome and amazing things about the dead brother in the eulogy, and that afterwards, Dr. Maltz was like, dude, you know, I know he didn't say it exactly like that. That's how I talk. He said, dude, I've never heard you ever say anything good about your brother. What gives? And he says, I'm the kind of person who never speaks ill of the dead. And so because he saw himself as a person who never speaks ill of the dead, regardless of his actual feelings towards his brother and all the crap that they'd gone through for years and years and years, he stood up and only had good things to say about him. And so when you really evaluate your core beliefs about yourself and you determine that, you know, whatever it is about you, it's one of the things here, it says, fill in the blank. I'm the kind of person who, fill in the blank. I'm the kind of person who blank, you know. Who are you? Who do you see yourself as, you know? I personally see myself as a ray of sunshine. That is who I am. That's what I'm about. If I sit there and say anything, if I were to come up with a definition of who I am, I see myself as a ray of sunshine, and so I act out in my life things that show me as a ray of sunshine. You know, I mean, does that make sense, guys? Who are you saying that you are? You know? Think about it, because that core inner belief of who you are is what is guiding every action that you take in your life. And all the little things that surround, and it doesn't have to be just one statement of, you know, I am the kind of person who. It could be ever anything. If you sit there and you think about, you know, your favorite foods and your, you know, your favorite colors and your favorite books and all these things that you say are your favorite, or all these things that you say that you like or that you believe, that's who you are. That's your self-image. That is what's guiding you. And so look at those things, particularly your beliefs about the world, because if your beliefs about the world are not serving you, if they're dragging you down and causing you to have less success in your life, those beliefs, you really need to look at them and change them. So that's my thoughts on that so far, you know. And I know we said we were going to kind of talk about some of the some of the pre-mastermind discussions. I think we've mostly covered a lot of it, and so I think it's been a great discussion. But I did want to real quick. I noticed that Garth jumped on and is watching from our page. Welcome, Garth. Just want to say hey and have a shout out to you. Welcome, welcome. If you have any thoughts on what we've been talking about, then you know, put them down there in the comments below. And by the way, I know you kind of jumped on a little bit late, so once we end, you can just start replaying it back from the beginning. The replay will be live on this page. So anyway, any other thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. You know, what you was just talking about, Samantha, is so powerful. And two of the most powerful words that exist in any language are the words I am. And like you said, fill in the blank. I am. What kind of a person do you see yourself as? You know, when I was growing up, I grew up in an extremely poor family. And there's broke, and broke's a temporary situation. You might be broke today, but you can have some money tomorrow. But when you're poor, you never have any hope of life ever being any better. And I grew up in a poor family. The attitudes that I grew up with, the music back then, my family listened to country music, and all the music was just gut-wrenching, you know, my dog died, and, you know, somebody stole my pickup. I mean, it was, you know, that money was scarce, money was hard to come by, that there wasn't enough to go around. All these different songs, all these different ideas that was implanted into my mind. And when I went to school, you know, there's a section that Maxwell Maltz quotes another guy. I can't remember his name. It's earlier in the book, but he's talking about how the attitude that you go to school with, you know, what kind of a person do you see yourself as? What kind of I am do you have going on in your life? And my perception of my family being poor was that, well, poor people are stupid. Therefore, I must be stupid. And so when I went to school, I proved that. I proved that theory out. I flunked the second grade. I couldn't pay attention. They weren't teaching me anything that I was interested in. So I just sat and stared out the window. And I proved how you can just go through school and never be seen, and the teachers will just usher you through just to get rid of you. And I was one of the kids that by the end of the first week, I was already lost. I didn't even know what they were talking about up there in the front, because I proved my I am, that I am stupid. But it wasn't until that I became an adult and actually got out into the world and was exposed to some different ideas where I know I'm not the most intelligent person on the planet, but at least I come to the realization that I'm not stupid. You know? And so what are the I ams that you're saying about yourself? What are the lies that you're telling yourself? What is the bull crap that you're buying from yourself that's not true? That you can change. And you can change with your just suppose. Just suppose that I am more than what I've ever given myself permission to be, because I bought into my own line of baloney. You are so much more. And I love your statement there, Samantha. You are a ray of sunshine. I see you as a beautiful, beautiful spirit. There's a beautiful spirit that you have, and you project that, and I love that about you. And so now I'm getting emotional here because I'm laying out some stuff that has affected my life. The imagination, the way that you use your imagination. You see, that's been a struggle for me. Why have I read this chapter so many times in the past? Because I've been trying to figure out who Dan Smith is. What is the I am that I'm saying about myself? Who is the Dan Smith that I am, and who is the Dan Smith that I want to be? And so the things that you say to yourself about yourself are so powerful. And the line that your subconscious can't take a joke. Your subconscious can't distinguish whether it's a truth or a falsehood. It only accepts what you tell it. So when you begin with your suppose, and when you begin with the thought that my life could maybe be better, all you're really doing is you are programming into your own subconscious mind the I am that you want to be. What are the possibilities? What could I become? What do I have to change to be better? And you begin with that suppose, just suppose, and you turn those I am statements from negative, from the I am stupid, to the I am great. I believe in myself. I am something worthwhile. I'm a good person, and people love me and they want to know me. And you begin to change from those negative thoughts and emotions that have really kept you locked up in a prison for years of your life, and you cease buying your own baloney, and you begin to talk about good things about yourself, and begin with that gradual winning process, those little wins, those little things that you can conquer. And like you said, Katherine, maybe the best that you can accomplish that day is to go to the grocery store and get that done. But that was a major win in your life for that day. That was overcoming something powerful that was coming against you, and you won. You did it. And you can do more. So, yeah, I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dan. And while you were speaking, I was thinking that it comes down to repetition, and some of us don't have all the words and our into our our language patterns yet, and so I just encourage everyone to plug in to groups like this and read books like this and don't worry about making it stick the very first time, but just keep exposing yourself to it, and then you'll be arming yourself with the positive thoughts that you need in order to make that next stride. Um, and just know that you can do it. It is kind of difficult at first to arm yourself with that ammunition, but that's why I plug into terrific groups like this is because it really does help me keep my mind in the right direction. And sometimes I'm just at a loss for words to tell myself. I know, okay, I should be positive, but what exactly, what is it that I should be telling myself at this point? So just going back through this stuff and um, even making a game of it. um, they talk this one activity they talk about, going back in your memory and reliving those successful experiences, and reliving them emotionally, in your imagination. I mean, that works so well. And I even encourage you to take a pen to paper, or type it out and really go through and pull out every bit of um, physical or an emotional feeling that you have when you think about that great experience that you had, and really pull it out, really dissect it and relive it. And then it'll help you to bring that emotion forward and attach it to your next goal. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, we're kind of doing that all the time, Jason. We people say, "Oh, well, that sounds difficult. I can't reprogram my mind." But your mind is running. We think about past traumas, or we think about past slights. So and so did this, or what. You've got stuff running there, so you just have to replace it. And this is, I preach self-talk all the time, but if you craft your self-talk, any time that you go into a moment of doubt or discouragement, you can, if you don't know anything else to do in that moment, you can always start saying your self-talk, and at least occupy your brain with something positive instead of something negative until you can figure out the next step to take. But this can be used very literally too. I was on a call, I think it was a call the other day, and this lady actually did an experiment. She did online marketing, but she got into some offline and was handing out flyers, I guess, or putting them on people's doors. And she actually kept track and found out that she got as many responses, if not more, I think it was more, by mentally going out and handing out flyers, putting flyers on people's doors, than she did when she actually did it. So I thought that was fascinating, absolutely fascinating, and I don't doubt it, because um, that the universe is just really weird like that, and it kind of, always surprises us. But crafting the perfect self-talk is so important for those moments where you're just, all of us get discouraged, all of us have fears. It's just, how long do we let ourselves dwell there? Because I always had the habit, my childhood was fairly unstable, and I got into the habit as a very young child of um, looking at the worst case scenarios and having a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. There was so much instability. I felt like I had to have all these plans, backup plans, in case this went wrong, I was going to do this. If that didn't work, I was going to do this. what I realize now after doing work like this is that I was manifesting stuff that I didn't want to happen, because I had already pictured all those worst case scenarios. Sometimes you can visit the worst case scenario for just a moment, because sometimes you have to think, okay, well, what is the worst that could happen right now? And then once you realize, okay, I can get through that, then you can ease up a little bit. So, but the self-talk and just trying to eliminate that mind chatter, and it is work like this, it is reading books like this and being in masterminds and having these types of discussions that allows you to completely, not completely turn off the chatter, but when the chatter starts, you recognize it immediately and you're like, oh no, we're not going there, and then you can jump into your self-talk, so until you can get back on track. So this work is life-changing. That's why we do it, and we're so glad that all of you join us here. And if you need a copy of the book, just let us know. We have it on PDF and we'll get it to you. And I would just, read it. Every time you read a chapter, it's going to speak something different to you. So glad everyone came today.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful, Katherine. The part of the plan B and the worst case scenario. Everybody's made so many great points today, and one of the things that a lot of very successful leaders talk about is not having a plan B. And I think the reason for that is that, when you do the suppose or what if this happens or imagine if this happens, and you think of the positive things instead of those negative things where you have to plan out a plan B, how about you plan out your plan B of if everything went the way that you expected it to go? What if that was your plan B? And it wouldn't even necessarily be a plan B, it would be a plan to be successful. I mean, and that right there, I feel like today has been a really powerful discussion on a better way of thinking. And with what Katherine was talking about with the positive self-talk, and what Dan was saying when he was talking about I am being some of the most powerful words. And and a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but previously we've talked about having a major definite purpose, and we discussed this in some of our other mastermind groups as well, is just having that major definite purpose, that guiding outline for your life, or your personal life plan or business plan, if you will. And when we talk about these statements of I am, and we talk about these statements of self-talk, is that we can literally choose a short paragraph, a sentence or two, where we just say what we want to be in the statement of I am. And when you do that, is that it can, when something negative comes up, like what Katherine was talking about, you have the self-doubt that pops in your head. You recognize it because you've been getting on these hangouts, you've been looking at personal development, you've been diving into improving, improving yourself. And when those negative things come up, you can literally just stop that thought and do your self-talk, like what Katherine was talking about. And you can take these statements of I am sunshine, I am a bringer of light, I am a person that is encouraging and an inspiring leader to others. You say these different statements of I am, and then all of a sudden you have a completely different feeling, which is getting into this, like it was talking about in this book, this winning feeling. Because when you can change your emotional state, it's almost like taking a left turn instead of taking a right turn. And wouldn't you prefer to take the turn that takes you down the path to success? Of course you would. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. I know we could go on and on this chapter for a while because there were so many powerful things in here. But I want to encourage you to jump over to mindsetmasterycollective.com in there we did kind of a little pre-mastermind discussion. It'll be the pinned post. Katherine posted in there a really important quote, and mentioned something. You know, she also talked about, you know, you don't have to believe your thoughts. So read that post. That's really important. I wanted to go ahead and read it, but we're running out. We're way past the time. But jump over there, add your thoughts to our discussion, and of course, if you got this in the middle, then as soon as we end, you'll be able to watch the replay. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this topic, because this is such a powerful breakthrough for a lot of people in knowing what to do. That's the key, is that a lot of times when you do these personal development things, you get an idea of what, you know, how things work, but you're not entirely sure what those step-by-step actions are. So that's what it is for today. So let me just kind of summarize back over a couple of things that you need to be doing. One is create some I am statements that are who you want to be, who you want to see yourself as, your core self image, your core of who you are. Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you believe? What is your life all about? Come up with some I am statements. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be 3 or 4 or 5 or however many it is that you want. And memorize those, so when that negative stuff pops up in your brain and you start feeling all sorry for yourself, then you can just stop saying it and repeat those I am statements to yourself, okay? The other thing is worry positive, okay? So instead of thinking worst case scenario, think of best case scenario and start imagining what it would be like best case scenario. It's no different. It doesn't take any more work to do it positive than it does to do it negative. And, you know, in my opinion, that whole thing right there of worrying in the positive is probably one of the easiest things that you can possibly do to communicate with your servo mechanism, get yourself going in the right direction. And, you know, and the great thing is that you don't have to force those feelings. All you have to do is sit there and imagine the best case scenario. Suppose this awesomeness happened. What would I do if? You know, okay? And then of course, let's see here. Okay, we already talked about crafting the positive self-talk and creating a positive plan B. You know, and just remember, fill in the blank. I am the kind of person who, and that, again, it comes down to that's part of your self-talk. So, guys, unless anybody else has anything else they want to add before we wrap this thing up for today, any final thoughts? Nope.
Yeah, there is. Look at your words as seeds, and look at your heart as a garden spot, and all the words that you speak are putting seeds in your garden spot. And what do you want to grow? That's the biggest thing. What do you want to grow in your experience? So that's it. I'll turn it over.
Awesome, Dan. Awesome. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. You know, normally, you know, each week I post, well, not every week, but the weeks that gives an assignment, I'm going to post an assignment in our community, and again, that's mindsetmasterycollective.com, and the assignment is basically going to be, you know, write out 5 I am statements or fill in the blank of, you know, I'm the kind of person who. So it'll be real simple, easy for you guys to do. Just write those things out in the comments in that assignment. Get yourself going on that, and that's it for today. So have an awesome, amazing, wonderful weekend, and we will look forward to seeing you again here at the Saturday Morning Mastermind.com. And then I'll be posting in the community here within the next couple of days a pre-discussion for the next chapter, which is going to be, of course, chapter 15. And that one says, more years of life and more life in your years. So that'll be an interesting topic. I haven't read it yet, so we'll get into that. And with that, have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.
Oh, here we go. Right.